Yo, Dad, so screen time is the biggest problem that we face as good and present parents. It has, in fact, hijacked pretty much every weekly Compass topic that we've ever launched. So, what I've done is I've reached out to the person who is at the forefront of trying to get screens out of schools and out of homes and get us to be more intentional with our tech app and device use. Emily Cherkin, also known as the Screen Time Consultant, it is from America, but she's been campaigning in UK Parliament to reduce the amount of tech that they use in schools because, as we know, trying to reduce screen time as a whole is like fighting a losing battle if we send our kids off to school for them to just sit on screens all day. It is absolutely filled with value and takeaways for you dads to be able to implement to start saving our kids for what damage these screens will do to them in the future. Enjoy.
Yes.
Emily, let's be honest, screens are not bad. I'm speaking to you from West Yorkshire, British countryside in Seattle because screens exist, right? They're
They
not
do.
they're not the devil. But we're moving
Correct.
into an age where me and you both believe, and all the dads in my community believe that they are getting in the way. It's getting a bit too much. And something I've heard you say, which was really profound, is that we need to move forward and be tech intentional. So, to a group of dads who are conscious about this and want to raise good kids, what does tech
Yeah.
intentional mean?
Yeah. Thank you. So, yeah, I always say I'm not anti tech, I'm tech intentional. And what that means to me is that we use technology in alignment with child development and our values in a nutshell. And so, my TLDR version of that is to be tech intentional means that less is more, later is better, and we prioritize relationships and skills before screens.
That's great. That's really good. That's I don't think people are doing a good enough job of that at the moment. I think the aim of it's not the screen, is it? It's the app and the tech developers, and those are the people that you're going after.
Right?
So, yeah, and that's where I came across
Correct.
you because you're going after them because they're too much in schools. And I
Yeah.
think they're
Yeah.
doing a really, really good job of distracting people. And the first
Yeah.
question I want to ask you is the first topic I'd like to speak about is the quote that I try to live by is that my dad didn't tell me how to live. He lived and he let me
Mm.
watch. And
Mm.
I'm gonna be the first to put my hand up here and say that my kids see me too much on screens. This is
Mm.
a hypocrisy check that I need to do and my dads need to do all the time because they see
Yes.
us doing it and it's the only reason they want to do it. Because if they didn't,
Yeah.
then they wouldn't exist, these screens, would they? So how would you advise that dads specifically, because it's a dad's community,
Yeah.
navigate their own
Yeah.
use when the families are present?
Well, I mean, I love that you said that because I think if we look around, all adults or nearly all adults are problematic users of tech. And there is a reason for that, right? They are designed to hook and hold our attention. They are designed to keep us online longer. And if it's hard for us, then it is going to be a million times harder for children. And so the flip side of that is how powerful it is for us as role models for our children to say, "Ooh, this is hard for me. And I'm an adult with a fully formed brain. And I'm finding it hard not to reach for my phone when we're at the park and scroll or take a picture or, text somebody." And so that is an opportunity for empathy we can have with our kids to say, this is so hard for me and I'm a grown up. I can't imagine how hard this is for you. And so my job as a grown up is to get more information. And when I learn more and new information, I change my behavior to adjust to that. When I know better, I do better. And I think the ability to say I've made a mistake is so powerful. And to come from fathers to say, gosh, this is hard for me too. Gosh, I wish I were, using my phone less is an opportunity to start that conversation with your children in a really powerful, non-confrontational, you're not yelling, they're not mad at you, really, really powerful way.
Yeah. So the solution to that we found in our home, which is something new we've been trialing and it's working, it's something that's been working in the dad community as well, is the all the phones, everybody's get put in a drawer or in a basket when we walk in the house.
Love it.
And then
That's brilliant.
we get to then choose maybe an hour at some point in that evening to just get some stuff done, whether it be my 12-year-old
Yep.
catching up with his friends, or me catching up with some notifications and DMs or whatever, or my partner doing some
Yes.
online shopping, which she likes to do.
Yes.
So, um,
But that's a perfect example of being tech intentional. You're using it for a very specific set amount of time in alignment with the values you have as a family. You're not letting it supersede other things that are important to that family relationship. I think that's brilliant. I've heard parents too say things like, I only use it when it's plugged in. Like I can only use my phone when I'm standing at the charger, right? You're a lot less likely to want to scroll if you have to stand by a counter and, it's not as comfortable as lying on your couch, right? So any sort of friction that we can add to our own use will help us reduce our use.
yeah, I'd just like to share on that when I dropped that lesson in this week. One of the guys has literally just dropped one of the wins in the chat room, and it's because he's been tech intentional, which is what you teach. He last night the phone went away. He spent more time with his kids. He fell asleep in bed with them both. He woke up this morning still cuddling one of them. He woke up
Oh,
early because he'd gone to bed earlier. He then
right.
went downstairs by himself, was intentional with his screen time, and got his admin done before anyone was even awake.
Amazing.
So
Yeah,
he,
that's beautiful. And again, like, the sleep part is huge, right? I mean, one thing I say to parents, it's the low hanging fruit, something really easy we can do like right now is get our phones out of the bedroom at night because it's like 95% of adults have their phones in their room at night. And I know it's their alarm clock, but I actually have an old school alarm clock and it still works. It wakes me up when I need to get up and my phone is in the living room and away from my bed at night. And it means I'm not doom scrolling before bed and it's not the first thing I roll and scroll, in the morning. And so that's a really great way again to model for our kids like intentional use. Like I'm not going to let this disrupt my sleep or my rest time. And it's much easier than when your children get older to be like, nope, phones don't go in the bedroom because ours isn't, so yours isn't. That's what we just do that in our family. Yeah, that's really powerful.
yeah, I think we'll all start doing that immediately. So let's talk about the screen being a digital pacifier.
Yeah.
Which in the UK we call it a dummy. Something that shuts kids up, right? It's so
I
easy
mean,
to,
it does.
yeah,
Yeah, that's the problem is it works in the short term. And, it's natural for us to want to find quick fix solutions for our brains to gravitate towards easy quick fixes. Um, but the problem is that that's actually long term pretty bad for our kids and for us and for our relationships. And so, you know, I always joke, no one got into parenting because they heard it would be easy. Like parenting's the hardest job I've ever done. And I taught 12-year-olds in an English class. So it's like, we have to be prepared that there is hard work associated with parenting, but the hard work is the good work. It's setting our kids up for a future success, for being a role model to their own children, for helping them navigate their adult lives. And so it is 100% worth the fight or the friction or the struggle now, because what you're doing is you are teaching them long-term things about self-regulation, about delaying gratification that will only benefit them.
yeah. So just giving them an iPad or a screen immediately in a restaurant or on a long drive is going to kill their ability to self-regulate. Now, for a dad who just wants that quiet 10 minutes, what development are our kids actually going to lose if we don't let them just be bored or frustrated for a short period?
Yeah. Boredom is an opportunity. Boredom is the birthplace of creativity. It's like sitting there and daydreaming is so important for brain development, for children's imagination, for creativity. The irony is you hear all these tech companies say that these products can help kids be creative and innovate, but the opposite is true. It kills creativity. It does it for you. And if we want to raise kids, even kids to work in the tech industry and be innovative and imaginative and create new things, then we need to give them opportunities to practice those skills in their childhood so that when they're adults, they have something to go back on. They've had these years of daydreaming and imagining. So, absolutely, we need to give kids opportunities for that. And we need to be able to respond to the boredom with, like, yeah, this is great. This is just a good muscle for you to be working on strengthening. It's just like any other skill that we just have to navigate. The world is boring sometimes. That's just the way it is, and that's okay, right? So yeah, I mean, it's I would argue too, like part of being tech intentional is like you can use a screen sometimes. It's We want to plan ahead for that. We want to say, like, you know what, Friday movie night for a whole family. Like we're gonna do that together. And by the way, family movie night's one screen, one family. not parents on their devices scrolling while the movie plays, right? That's a very big difference. But maybe you do want to give 30 minutes of screen time after school so that you can do something. Establish it as the habit and the norm, and make it limited to that, so that there isn't this like ongoing battle of, well, you told me I could have it then and I didn't get 30 minutes yesterday, so I get it today. Again, there's always choices we can make within choices too. Like I always encourage parents to avoid any short form content, right? Like shorts, like reels, TikTok videos, those are just so bad for attention, focus, all of those things. Always pick long form content, slower paced content, always on a big screen, not a small screen, no headphones, being around other people. There's lots of things we can do within the times that we do screens, that still have a protective element.
Yeah, I don't think movies were designed to be enjoyed alone.
No, but you know what I'm hearing is that people can't sit through full length movies anymore, the young people, and that even Netflix, there was a news story recently about how they are having to encourage their creators to make more dialogue heavy plots because people are multitasking on their phones. So they're not watching, they're listening, which is, like talk about like from a creative artistic perspective of film and television, like that, what a loss, right? Yeah.
What a shame. I want to discuss
Yeah.
something that I tried to use to manage my son's screen time that actually failed. So
Yeah, tell me.
it was me using the parental settings from my phone.
Yeah.
It was me using fire to fight fire. I was like using an app to stop him using
Yes.
apps. Now you
Yes.
you
Yes.
said the words that those are basically sandbags against the tsunami, right? So
Yes.
why is a
Yes.
solid relationship with our kids better than any system that software
Yeah.
that we can use? And how do we start like using that relationship as a tool instead?
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah. I mean, learning happens in the context of relationships, and nothing is more powerful for a child's development than a trusted relationship with a caring adult. Hopefully that's a parent, but sometimes it's a teacher too, right? And so screens displace that. I think about, we talk a lot about screen time is bad, right? And like that could mean so many things. It's not just, first of all, screen time's not all created equal, right? But like when you think about just eye contact, for example, when we're looking at a screen, we're not looking at our parenting co-partner or our child or the person we're speaking to. And there's so much that's going on with eye contact that is so important from a developmental standpoint that we don't want to interfere with that. We don't want to um let me back up. The example I'm thinking of is like babies. I hear from parents sometimes that are like, well, I can't change my child's diaper without giving them a phone to look at while I'm doing that because they won't stop moving. And like I understand that, but this is to your point about giving it as a pacifier, right? But what are we teaching our child? Well, we're normalizing that screens can be this pacifier, but we're also taking away from this opportunity for us as a parent child to have an interaction, social interaction, and how much children need that to learn social cues and learn about it. And then if you fast forward a few years later, I have a friend in the UK actually who's a speech language therapist who was telling me she's got 4-year-olds coming into her clinic who are addicted to smartphones. And by addicted, she means clinically, that they are staring into sort of this space, that they're not engaging with her, they're not responsive to games and books that are normally really engaging to a typically developing child. And that she said she realized how awful this was in a moment that she had wondered if this child was having a hearing loss problem because of how disconnected the 4-year-old was. And so she pulled out her phone to play one of the sound effects, like to test his hearing. And she said, as soon as he saw the phone, his face lit up. So, what are we doing, right? Like, if we are normalizing these devices as the thing that will soothe and engage, we have ruined the human relationship that is so important in child development.
that breaks my heart. That really does. And with you saying that, I've just realized that when I'm changing my baby's nappy or diaper, as you say, he does look at me.
Yes, there's so much going on there. And you do it hundreds of times a day if you have a baby, right? Like it just feels like monotony to you. But what you have to think of is that every opportunity you're doing that is like these little neural synapses are, firing and connecting. And you are bonding. I mean, caring, clothing, diapering, feeding, and sleeping. Like these are all extremely important moments in those early child years that matter long term for attachment, for mental health, for cognitive flexibility, for emotion regulation. And it's like we do not want to bypass those moments. Now, again, I'm not here to shame and blame parents either. Like sometimes that might be like we might hand them a rattle or a toy. That's fine. That's different, right? It engages them in a different way. But like just any time we can choose a non-screen option, the younger the child, the better that is for them.
Yeah, brilliant. So I've heard you say a lot of things about schools, tech education.
Yeah.
So in schools, our kids are using laptops and tablets, which makes reducing screen time overall feel like a losing battle.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I hear this all the time. Like parents will say, like, I don't allow YouTube at home and my kid's going to school and getting YouTube on their school computer. Right. Yeah. And I make a distinction between ed tech and tech ed. So ed tech is like the one-to-one devices, the curriculum, the learning management systems, the grading portals, access to the internet that is on most children's school issued devices. That's different from technology education, which I think children need more than ever, which is, navigating an algorithm, knowing how to turn a computer on, skills like typing. But we're not teaching those things. That we're giving 5-year-olds iPads to learn how to read. That's not at all tech ed. And tech ed can be taught without technology, ironically. Just like we teach teenagers about drugs and alcohol. We don't give them drugs and alcohol to learn how to use them or to be safe around them. The same thing has to be true with technology. And I think a big part of the school piece is the internet connectivity of them. I think that it is shocking to me that in this day and age, we have to say things like children shouldn't watch pornography at school. That's what's happening. Children can access pornography at school. That shouldn't even be a possibility, right? And yet it is. And so what do we do as parents? I mean, again, I am a teacher. I was a teacher. I respect teachers. We can't go in going after the teacher alone. Like this is a systemic problem. This is a school leadership problem. But we need to start asking some really tough questions about what children are doing on these devices during the school day.
yeah, I think the app Snapchat is a major problem in schools. We speaking about pornography there. It almost promotes inappropriate photographs being shared, and I, for one, don't let
Yeah.
anyone have it. And
Right.
that leads into my next topic. Actually, it's that
Yeah.
massive pressure for kids to have phones by, do you call it middle school,
Yeah.
high school?
Yes. Yes.
So that they are not socially isolated. And I'm going through this right
Right.
now. I have a 12-year-old and he wants
Yeah.
snaps and I will not allow it. And he says every time, I'm the
Yeah.
only one. So you're a
Yes.
fan
Of course.
of later being better. So how does
Yeah.
someone like me, a present
Yeah.
and devoted father, how do I
Yeah.
handle him with his FOMO?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Right. Well, we acknowledge it's really real. Yeah, I hear you. It feels like you're the only one who doesn't have it. That's not true, by the way. There are other kids who don't have it, but it feels that way to him, and you can acknowledge that. That's okay. You also need to, well, I think parents need to realize that, like, no parent has ever said to me, I wish I gave my kid Snapchat sooner. Never. It's always, I wish I had waited. And one thing that we need to normalize is parents being okay with not having their kid like what they do or having your child be upset with you. That's normal. That's even healthy. And what we need to say to them is, I hear you. I know this feels like you're the only one. I'm really sorry that you feel this way. I will find other ways to support your social life. But I am doing this because I'm your parent, and my job as a parent is to protect you and to keep you as safe as possible. And this is not a product designed for children. This is not something that is safe. Your friends' parents may not know all this information, and they're learning too. But it's so hard. I mean, I'm going to be the first to say that I can say all of these things. It doesn't mean that makes it easy to do, and it doesn't mean our kid's not going to see somebody else's Snapchat or access someone else's, an account on someone else's phone. I'm not naive. I know that's happening, but that power of being able to be uncomfortable with our kids is important, and it's needed. They need that boundary. They may, if I may use a rude gesture, parenting a teenager is like being given the middle finger and gestured to come and be comforted at the same exact moment, right? And what we have to do is ignore the middle finger and pay attention to the big. Children need boundaries, and teenagers are children.
being the masculine presence in the home, I find it a lot easier to be the bad guy, and I don't mind.
Yeah,
And I say
yeah.
the words I say to him are, "I'm in charge of who you turn out to be, and
Mm,
this is going to
yeah,
destroy who you turn out to be."
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's a powerful, like to think about like what I do and say to you as a parent will have a direct impact on the kind of adult you're coming, you're growing up to be. And I want you to know that these choices I'm making are protective, that they are because I want you to grow up to be a thriving adult. Right? Yeah, that's powerful.
and you'll be happy to hear that in a recent meeting intervention we had with his head of year, that the head of year was actually against Snapchat, but he also
Good.
said it's completely out of my power. That's a parental.
I know. This is such a common problem. I hear from the school side, well, parents are giving kids these devices and access and all this stuff at home. So what are we supposed to do? We can't control it at home. And parents are like, yeah, but you're giving my kid internet access all day at the school. So I can't control that. I mean, quite frankly, this is a cultural change that needs to happen. I think it is happening. I do feel like the wind is at our back and in making some of these changes. And, you know, UK and US are similarly behind other countries on some of these issues in terms of reducing access to social media and smartphones or tech in the classroom, but people are talking about it. I mean, I think this is becoming a more mainstream conversation than it used to be just even a few years ago. And so that gives me a lot of hope.
It's interesting that the headlines in the newspapers this week were that the king's
Yeah.
wife was saying that kids need to use phones less, but then today the UK Parliament have, I think,
Yeah.
voted
I saw.
to reject banning
I
social
know.
media for under 16s.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. It's
yet
a
to find out
mistake.
yet to find out why. Probably they're just too busy or they don't think it's that important right now. But on the ground,
Yeah.
me and my dad
Yeah.
community, people like yourself, we're not going to give up because we see how
No.
detrimental this is to their development, and we're in charge of raising the
Yeah.
future. So
Exactly. And the change is going to come from parents on this, I think. So, kudos to you and to the dads that you lead because, again, speaking up matters. And we need dad voices. I do think there's a lot of it's not fair perhaps, but I get written off as a, irritating mom, right? And I think it's more powerful when there are dad's voices in this too. So I'm glad to hear you doing this.
well, if there's anything that I can do from my end as I build my community and my movement with the wind in my sails, then you just reach out
Thank you.
and I'll be right by your side.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And it's been a pleasure talking to you, Danny.